right, we are live. Hello, Knockout Nation. You're watching the Knockout TV show, and I'm your host, Noel Clubb. And welcome to Spanglish Sports World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app for respective iOS and Android app stores, as the app is absolutely free. And while you download, please make sure to rate and leave us a comment because we want to hear from you, and especially from you sitting right there. And of course, Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks. Roku and Roku sticks are also available on all smart TVs from 2016 forward. Welcome all the viewers watching the Knockout TV show around the world. Thank you for joining us as always. And now it's that time to introduce today's Knockout panel. So first off, he's an insightful boxing analyst and predictor joining us live from New York City. Please welcome the one and the only, the boxing prophet, Mr. Richard Solomon to the show. Welcome, Richard. How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. How's it going, guys? Got the Four Horsemen here, live and in color on the world's greatest boxing TV show, the Knockout TV show. I'm honored once again to be on this great panel. And contrary to what some people believe, it is March Madness, but I don't give a crap about college basketball. All I really care about is imparting my knowledge about the sweet science on the the world's best TV show, the Knockout TV show, of course.
Yeah, right on. And what's new with you, man? What's been happening with you, Rich?
I'm good. I just have, unfortunately, I have a bulging disc in my neck, so I have to go to physical therapy and stuff of that nature. So I'm not going to lie, it's pretty painful. But, life goes on, and I wouldn't miss being on this show for anything. So I'm honored that you invited me, and I'm happy to be with the crew, and I'm ready to talk about all things sweet science related.
Very good, very good. And it's always an honor to have you on the show too, sir. Always a great pleasure as well. With your great insights and predictions to come later on the show. So we're looking forward to that too. All right, moving on next. This really cool panel we got on today. He's a light heavyweight and super middleweight Canadian professional boxer with a fight record of 12, 1-5 KOs from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Please welcome Nick Fantauzzi to the show. Welcome, Nick. How you doing?
Everything's good, Noel. How about you?
Very good, very good. So what's I see you have a fight coming up the next little while?
Yeah, I'm fighting Sunday, April 21st in Toronto at Rebel Nightclub. I fought at that venue a couple of times. It's a very nice venue.
It is.
Just looking forward to getting in there. I've had a bunch of cancellations and pullouts of different opponents, and I just need to get back in there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, right on. Very good. Yeah, it's a great venue, isn't it, Rebel? It's a huge venue, and
yeah, it's very nice.
Light effects in that place too. I gotta say. Yeah, because I was there last year with the Glove Up. It was called the Glove Up group.
Yeah, Gloves Up Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah, basically the EMC folks out there want to do the one-off fight in their fight. It's a really awesome venue. It was a professional-looking event.
Mm-hmm.
So like for the first time only, these people fighting for the first time only. So it's very cool. So I love that venue. And you're still at Hard Knocks Boxing Club these days?
Yeah, I'm still there. Yep.
Very good. With Billy Martin as your coach?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, we love Billy Martin too here on the show. Right on. So yeah, man, all the best on that one. And of course, your insights later on here on the show as well. And for the first time here on our show today, as we're still waiting for Kirk Johnson to make an appearance. In the meantime, for the first time, he is a Canadian heavyweight boxer, and he's also the new CPBC Canadian heavyweight champion, folks. He won by 6-round TKO over Benjamin Alvarez. He is, of course, joining us live from Surrey, BC. Please welcome Jaye Byard to the show. Welcome, Jaye. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on, Noel. Humble and honored.
Absolutely. So how's it going with you? What's new with you, sir? The new champion of Canada.
Yeah, feels good. It feels really good to have those 4 belts strapped up there behind me. And every day that I'm training in Jab Fitness, I use those as motivation and incentive to continue working hard and climbing the ranks.
Yeah, right on. Very cool. And do you have any plans for the next fight, the next little while? Or are you still guys in negotiations, discussions with the next possible opponent?
Yeah, good question. We were hoping to be fighting on the Shaw Festival, but somebody kind of buggered that one up that's handling the affairs there, just to leave them nameless. But really unfortunate, because there's a guy in Ontario that we've had our sights on for quite a while, and we want that fight. They want that fight. It's just too bad that the guy that could have made the fight happen, well, didn't. So, yeah, but I'm always in the gym. I'm always ready. And there's only a couple bodies left in Canada that are realistic possibilities anyways. And once I've dispatched those, we're going to be looking outside of the country anyways. We've had offers outside of Canada, and sooner than later, hopefully we're going to start taking advantage of those.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. Definitely the right move to make, because now that you're the Canadian champion, that would be the next step to make for you. That's to move up, is going to the U.S. or in that case, in that kind of situation, for sure, and move up in the way. And of course, the bigger opposition now next. So very cool, very cool. And hey, Jay, thanks for joining us on the show. Real pleasure to have you on the show as well. All right, boys, let's move on to of course, the news of boxing here. Round number one, topic number one. We'll talk about, of course, another heavyweight here in the news. So on July 20th of this year, we have the undisputed former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson will be stepping up in the ring against YouTube star Jake Paul in exhibition showdown. So I just want to kind of touch this really kind of briefly, really quickly here, actually. This will be a lot of big news on this one. But of course, this is going to happen in take place in of course, Arlington, Texas, and the AT&T Center, stadium, and of course in Texas. Be seen on Netflix. And both fighters will be wearing 18-inch gloves, wearing headgear, with the exhibition rule in place. Of course, no knockdowns will be allowed, as per the rules that so far been reported. Mike Tyson will be 58 years old. He steps in the ring on July 20th, and Jake Paul is 27, with a 30-year gap of age between the two of them. But to ask you guys over at Nick first, what do you think? What's your thoughts on this? Will you be watching this matchup? And does this really help our sport, or is this basically kind of degrade our sport? What's your thoughts? What's your take, Nick? Jake Paul.
Yeah, to be honest, I got mixed feelings about this. The first feeling off the bat is these are legends in our sport. I don't like seeing them get hit by guys 30 years younger. I know age is a number, but I just don't want to see any 20-something-year-old fighting a 58-year-old man. Mike Tyson, he's Mike Tyson. He looks good for a minute on the videos he's doing, right?
Yeah,
he even said, though, his last fight, he said, "You guys said I look so good, and I was in bed for a week." Like, I just don't want it to get to the point where, the worst fight I've ever seen in this capacity was Vitor Belfort and Holyfield. I don't want to do that. You had a warrior who gave his life to this sport. Give his whole life, and then he gets beat up by Belfort, who, even though Belfort was older, Belfort was still young when he's like considered his his age. Holyfield was an old, no disrespect, but he was an old man that was I couldn't stand watching that. So am I going to watch this fight? Probably not. If I'm going to be, friends are going to want to get together and watch it, and maybe in that case, sure, I'll watch it. But am I interested? Not in the least.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, because it was very much his point. I find his punch like up and down, where it's like an extreme. Where I'm not watching it, I'm watching it, kind of a thing. This matchup here, I do agree. It's my opinion too. I don't think it'd be much of a fight I want to watch either. But just curious, what do you guys think? Over to Jay, what's your thoughts? Will you be watching this matchup? And does this kind of degrade our sport? Does it help our sport? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, it's a good question, Noel. Ultimately, I agree with Nick in that, our legends in the sport, they should be celebrated. They should be held up. They should be, they should be talked about. They should be put out there in front and center to share and to give back some of the knowledge and wisdom that they've picked up over the years. I think, in all honesty, I think it's bad for boxing, and I think it degrades the sport. Making money is one thing, and it's important. Everybody needs to do it. But I don't think necessarily it's a money thing for Tyson. I think he's probably secure enough that he doesn't necessarily need to take this. I've heard mixed views too about how it was going to play out. Supposedly there's some have said there's going to be headgear and 16-ounce gloves or something, and then I've heard that that's not the case. In all honesty, I'm the kind of guy, I'm a real old school fighter. I fight real fights, and I watch fights that are real fights. I don't want to watch big guy fight little guy. I'm an old guy fighting young guys. So at the end of the day, I would say age is just a number. And to be honest with you, I'd be happy to take that fight. But, Jake Paul doesn't want a real fight. And those guys, they're the equivalent of influencers, right? He's putting the work in. He's earning his place, right? But he's always going to have to deal with the stigma of being a YouTuber. Right? And to be honest with you, when you're always trying to make gimmick fights and fight non-boxing people, it's hard to gain respect, and the people like, Nick, myself, I've been boxing 33 years. I can't say I've made any money, really. I got 4 straps to my name now, thank goodness. And that's just the measuring stick of where I'm headed in my life, hopefully. But, these guys are absolute cash cows. And when cash cows are around, it brings people that want the money. And quite often the sport suffers because of these people that inject all the cash in there. Even the stuff in Saudi Arabia, it's great for the 5 or 10 guys that are in that lotto sweepstakes, right? But what about the rest of us heavyweights?
That's true. I totally agree with you completely. Because, I mean, we are watching, like you said, we're watching a really exhibition fight, on TV. That's going to be seen by millions of people. There's going to be a lot of money at stake, depending on, of course, the views we get on Netflix. But I totally agree. I don't want to watch an exhibition sparring match, for the world to see. It doesn't really basically it doesn't really interest me whatsoever. But it's unfortunate because like yourself or like Nick, there's so much great talent out there that are kind of being overlooked because these kind of situations, these kind of matchups going on and off again the last several years. So to me, it is rather unfortunate because you guys are very, very talented and deserving those opportunities. But it seems like the world wants to see a YouTube guy, against a former legend in the sport. It's really bizarre to me as well. But that's where things I find here at too. But well said, well put, sir, well put. Richard, what's your thoughts? Will you be watching Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, and this is bring a sport down in your opinion?
That's a heck of a good question. First, let me say it's an honor and a privilege to be surrounded by Canadian royalty on today's show. Gotta have respect for men who put their blood, sweat, and tears on the line every time they step into the ring. And I never thought these words would come out of my mouth. But Jake Paul is actually an asset and not a liability to the boxing community in the sense that he now has his own promotional company and fighters like Amanda Serrano, who is a legend in the sport of female boxing, are part of Jake Paul's promotional company. So, with the bad comes the good. As far as the fight itself goes, like Victor Belfort destroyed Holyfield, and it pained me to watch that. I almost cried. Tyson will be 58 years old when the fight's made. Like you said, Noel, Jake Paul's 27. And supposedly it'll be an exhibition with the 18-ounce gloves and the headgear. But it's my understanding that Tyson and Jake Paul are fighting it with the commission. They both want a real fight. And let's not forget, this is Texas. And Texas, I can honestly say, has the most corrupt athletic commission in the United States. Remember, Pernell Sweet Pete Whitaker dominated Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. in Texas and got robbed, and they called it a draw. We can do a whole hour about all the horrible decisions that took place in the state of Texas. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do sanction it and make it a legitimate fight. Jake Paul started off his career. He fought a retired basketball player who used to play for the Knicks, Nate Robinson. And then he's feasting on retired MMA guys like Tyrone Woodley and Anderson Silva. He has a couple of knockouts over professional boxers who are kind of hideous, but the only real challenge that was presented to Jake Paul, he lost, and that was Tyson Fury's half-brother, Tommy Fury, who beat Jake Paul by a split decision, I think it was, and I kind of thought Tommy Fury dominated. And you didn't see Jake Paul ask Tommy Fury for a rematch, so he knows better. I will say Jake Paul's improving. I'm not a professional boxer. I've never stepped into the ring, but it seems like, his hand speed's getting better. His defense is getting better. He does have power. I mean, it's on Netflix. I subscribe to Netflix. I guess they'll make it, a pay-per-view spectacle and put some legitimate fights on the undercard. So I'll wind up watching. But, I don't think it would be as popular years ago as it was today with the invention of social media. Ryan Garcia makes a living off of social media. That's how he's getting fights with Tank Davis and Tank Davis and now Devin Haney. If it wasn't for social media, Ryan Garcia wouldn't have a shot to face any of these champions because his resume leaves a lot to be desired. So it's the world we live in now. Hopefully no one will get hurt, and it will be reminiscent of when Mike Tyson fought Roy Jones years ago, and they both showed that they still have, I guess, something left in the tank, but they took it easy on each other. And let's just hope it's like
No.
Yeah, well put. Well put as always. I have to say, well put. And once again, I totally agree with your statements there. But that's a good point as well about the Texas thing about they could possibly change, adjust rules, last minute ish, on this case here. So we shall see what happens. Yeah, but it's been really mixed reports in terms of the actual rules are concerned. But it really is, end of the day, exhibition matchup. End of the day, that's what it is. It's not a real fight. But we shall see how it changes with Texas Commission coming up. Well, all right, boys, let's move on. I just want to touch on that one really quickly because I know it's kind of a popular topic with a lot of people out there, but not necessarily with us, but we've got to touch on it. So anyway, got to move on here. So next up, round number 2, topic number 2, Terrence Crawford is looking at moving up 2 weight classes, as right now he's looking to fight Chris Eubank Jr. at 160. Of course, it's only a rumor. It's not a real setup match, but it's been a rumor right now that Terrence Crawford may be fighting Chris Eubank Jr. next. And recently, of course, Canelo Alvarez had stated, no, I will not take a fight against Terrence Crawford. So that's been ruled out completely. But it seems like Terrence Crawford's still on this run to go up a couple of weight classes anyway, and which I don't quite understand myself as a former boxer. And we'll see what you guys have to say about that as well. But in terms of with Terrence Crawford, do you guys think it's a good idea, number one, for him to go up 2 weight classes, to go up in weight? And do you think this fight's actually going to happen? Basically over to Richard first on this one here. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, there were rumors circulating that he was going to fight Chris Eubank in England. He was going to jump up 2 weight classes to 160. I think that's not going to happen at all. If you take a look at Chris Eubank's career, his 2 biggest victories as a pro were against Matt Colbert and James DeGale. And he's got 3 losses against Billy Joe Saunders, George Groves, and Liam Smith. He's got shin issues, so I think if Crawford was to take the fight in England, I have no doubt he would knock out Eubank within 6 or 7 rounds. But now there are also rumors circulating over the past couple of weeks that one of the sanctioning bodies, we like to call here on the KnockOut TV show, the Alphabet Soup organizations, they have now told Terrence Crawford, you know what? You don't have to jump up 2 weight classes and fight Chris Eubank in England. We'll automatically make you the number 1 contender to the winner of next week's fight between Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora at 154 pounds. So without even making a debut at junior middleweight, the best welterweight in the world can now sit back and relax and watch Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora go to war next Saturday night, and it will be a war for however long it lasts. And for the record, I think, Fundora with his height will probably, have his moments against Tszyu, but I think ultimately Tszyu will chop him down and stop him in about 8 or 9 rounds, kind of like Rocky Balboa did to Ivan Drago back in Rocky IV. But it just amazes me that, Bud Crawford doesn't have to make an appearance at junior middleweight, at least fight someone in the top 10. It just seems like he's getting an automatic title shot at the winner of Tszyu Fundora. Yeah. And, I'm not a fan of that. And as we all know, my heart goes out to Tim Tszyu because, here's a guy that's really, really been on a roll as of late with consecutive victories over Terrell Gausha, Tony Harrison, Carlos Ocampo, and Brian Mendoza. And then he was supposed to have fights with Charlo, which got canceled because Charlo claims, he had an injury. Then he was supposed to fight, Keith Thurman, who also claimed he was injured. And then, Thurman also backed out of the Tszyu fight. So, Tim Tszyu is looking to make a legacy for himself. And I think he would welcome a chance to face Terrence Crawford. And I think it would be competitive. But if you're asking me what I would like to see, I would like to see, there's still unsettled business at 147. To me,
Yeah,
yes,
right.
Terrence Crawford demolished Errol Spence, who, by the way, and I'm not taking anything away from his victory over Spence, but we got to keep it real. Spence was a shell of himself. He was in a horrific car accident. He had issues with his eyes. Having said that, if they fought 10 times, Crawford beat Spence 9 out of 10 times. Styles make fights. But the second best welterweight right now is Boots Ennis. And I think it's criminal that every time Terrence Crawford is asked, why won't you fight Boots Ennis? He was like, Boots Ennis does nothing for me. Really, bud? Well, Jeff Horn, who was coming off of a controversial victory over Manny Pacquiao, could have said, you know what? Bud Crawford does nothing for me, but he gave you a shot. And that's what champions do. They give other great fighters in their weight division the respect that they deserve and an opportunity. And I think it would be criminal if Crawford doesn't fight Boots Ennis before he jumps up to 154 and faces Zoo. Having said that, call me crazy, I like Crawford over Zoo. I think Boots Ennis at 147 poses a bigger threat to Bud, at least in terms of losing. It'll be more competitive than it would be a Crawford Zoo fight.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point, because I think Cross would probably would want to dodge Boots, because I think he's a threat. He's a threat. He's a young guy, up and coming, and I can see that being a threat to Crawford. So yeah, I hear you saying, and I agree with that as always. Well said. Well said. Over to Jay. What's your thought on that with Crawford versus Eubank? Is it going to happen? And is that a good idea, moving up 2 weight classes?
Honestly, I don't know that it's gonna happen. You guys have heard a lot of the rumors, like myself, with Crawford for a while. I really do enjoy watching Crawford go to work. He's one of those kind of guys that I took a little bit of what he does and made it my own kind of deal as far as switching and stuff like that. But more than anything, I think business is affecting boxing more than anything, and people starting to allow people to start making business decisions with their career instead of making their career. And so, any which way you cut it, there's nobody on the planet that's going to suggest, that knows boxing, that thinks that that's not a dangerous fight for Crawford. And that's exactly why he's saying he does nothing for him. Exactly why Alvarez is saying Benavidez does nothing for him, right? But truth of the matter is, once you get into this sport, and you should be trying to climb the ranks if you're in the business of boxing. And if you're not trying to climb the ranks and be the best fighter you can possibly be, then you're in the wrong business, and you should move and get out the way, right? Yeah. I'm all for getting paid, but at the end of the day, I can tell you in my professional boxing career, I've never once took money over integrity. That's what matters to me right there. Yeah, if I died as a world champion tomorrow, and all I had was that green and gold belt, then it wasn't in vain. Then I lived my life and I completed my mission, right? Boxing for me was never about money. It was about being the best fighter you could possibly be, and having one of those straps around your waist to essentially legitimize that.
Absolutely.
So I think, Crawford moving up in weight is good. I think it's good for boxing. There's more compelling fights up there, since he doesn't seem to be interested in the Boots Ennis fight. But I think, like you said, the alphabet soup organizations, right? They're just allowing too much hanky-panky going on here. You got the Tyson Fury saga, right, with the WBC. Yeah. It's just a gong show, right? The reality is that Crawford is one of those guys like Sweet Pea. He's a dangerous fighter. Nobody really wanted to fight him, right? Right. And his career has been impacted negatively by that, right? Because nobody wanted that smoke, and he's still dealing with that right now. It's almost a year since the Spence fight, and it doesn't seem like he's any closer to having something signed for sure. That Tim Tszyu fight, there could be controversy there, and there could end up being a rematch that is forced to run it back there. So, you just never really know, right?
Absolutely. I agree with that completely. Yeah, well said. Well said. And over to Nick. What's your thoughts, sir? Will it happen, Eubanks, Crawford, and should Crawford move up?
this is like a loaded question because I had a lot of thoughts about this.
Very loaded question. It is.
Yeah. I think Crawford and Eubank, I think they both would fight each other, no problem. Those two guys, like, you just get a feeling by guys if they would fight or not. Crawford just seems like, they're going too high. I don't think he'll go to ever 168, but I think 160 he'll fight anybody who's there. The whole thing is like, this is a very negative thought about boxing, but here, everybody on this panel is always going to be disappointed with boxing. We're always going to be, because we're never going to get what we want. It kind of sucks because now it's not like, back in the day where, I've read about it. I never experienced it, but, back in the day, everyone wanted to be the best. They wanted to fight the best.
Yeah.
Now it's all about, it doesn't matter what level you're at. Like, you guys, Jay, you know what I'm talking about, right? Me personally have accepted so many different fights. I've accepted fights at, the next weight class up, whatever. The lower level, the higher, the medium level, the high level, it's all about money. And it sucks. Like, I said yes to everything. I said yes to money. I said yes to higher weight. And then what happens? I end up getting, I don't want to say stuck, but I fight people that I shouldn't be fighting. I should be fighting, at a higher level. But, people don't see all that stuff behind the scenes. So what I'm trying to say there to get to the point is, boxing purists, boxing guys like us are always going to be disappointed because, when it's all said and done, it's all about money. So we don't get the fights we want. And that's kind of how I'm feeling with, Crawford. A lot of people want to see Crawford fight, Canelo or this or that. Or most of the time it's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. No. Well, even Canelo even said, came out with a statement saying, "I'm not going to fight Crawford. There's no upside for me to do that."
Yeah,
right off the bat, and now or the future, he's not going to take him on.
And it's like that in all sports now, not just boxing. It just seems like everyone cares about money more than their legacies. Having said that, I disagree with Nick a little bit. Yes, Canelo and Benavidez might not get made, but this year alone, we still have Usyk and Fury, which is a done deal, which is right around the corner. And so, that's a great fight that people wanted to see. So there are fights that are being made, just not, enough of them.
They're few and far between. That's what it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well said.
And it's gone back to, one of my favorite fighters, Roy Jones. You saw fights with him that never got made, right?
Yeah.
And, he fought Calzaghe, but that was way later than it should have been. Like, all those fights that you wanted him to, to be in, it didn't happen. Whoever was at fault, it just seems to me that back in the day, if you're the best, you're fighting the best. And nowadays it's all about protecting your record. UFC, you go there, you get knocked out. The next fight, your main event again. Boxing, if you lose, you're a bum. That's what they say. It's not true, but that's what they say.
Yeah, I think the Olympics ruined Roy Jones. Him getting robbed like that, he was always afraid to take that transcontinental flight to England, because if you look at Roy Jones's career, I would have loved to have seen him go to England and fight like Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn, or even in America, fight Gerald McClellan and Julian Jackson. Mm-hmm. And there were so many guys left off of his resume where he was kind of afraid that he would get robbed. Look at the fighter from Poland, Dariusz Michalczewski, who ruined the light heavyweight division with an iron fist. That unification bout never happened because he didn't want to go to Poland and get robbed. So I think the Olympics, that horrible decision hindered Roy Jones when he was a professional.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I have to say it. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's the life we're kind of living these days, eh? There's no doubt about that.
It's risk aversion. I think what these guys have touched base on, to really summarize it, is boxing, not only boxing, but in other sports as well. You have all these people that are risk aversive, and they don't want to take any kind of risk. They like the lifestyle. They like being looked up to. They like having follows and all that crap, right? But they don't like the risk. And so it's like there's fighters out there that are, you know what I mean? They're in it for, a paycheck. And then there's guys that don't care about the money. They just want to hurt you and pull titles around their waist, right? And
not true.
Those are the ones that get dodged, because those are the ones that quite often don't have promoters. or they don't got financial backers. So the guys like even you're talking about right now, right? Somebody out there that's a real threat that doesn't have money behind him, right? He's not getting the Canelo shot in Benavidez. You know, it's these guys that aren't, you know, it's Boots Ennis not getting a legitimate shot against Bud. That would be an amazing fight. Of course, that would be an amazing fight.
Absolutely.
That means close to a 50-50 is we're probably going to see Bud in realistically.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that people have been conditioned globally, right, to not take any risks. Even in society outside of boxing, people they're bubble wrapped out there. I mean, we're surrounded by cowards in society nowadays. Right?
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you. And actually, I think it goes in boxing terms. I think it goes back to Mayweather's days in the 2000s, where he was kind of teaching the people in the boxing world of how he's going to, you know, take on this person, make this guy wait 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You know, there's a lot of was going on where he's kind of protecting his zero, right? And but not taking the matches that people wanted to see. And I think kind of started back in the Mayweather days. But when I've seen now, it's kind of part of like the preliminary ideology of boxers now is just take on the easier matchups overall. Despite you guys here on the show, but I'm seeing a lot of that, like you're saying, out there.
Well, he had 2 careers. You know, Pretty Boy Floyd, before he left Top Rank, fought everybody. Diego Corrales, Gennaro Hernandez, the list goes on and on. But then when he was his own promoter, that's when he started picking his spots. And let me just say, you know, I would be remiss if you were to ask any boxing fan, and I'm sure everyone here on this panel, what are the 3 best fights that could be made in boxing today? I'm sure we would all agree: Fury Usyk, Beterbiev Bivol, and Canelo Benavidez. And to be fair to the sport, we're getting 2 of those 3 fights this calendar year. Beterbiev Bivol is a done deal, and so is Fury Usyk. So, you know, as much as boxing likes to crap on itself, we are getting 2 of the biggest fights that could be made in the sport this year. So let's just, and I really do think that cooler heads will prevail, and Canelo will bite the bullet and fight Benavidez, but I don't think it'll be this year. I think that'll be in 2025. But let's see, when we get these fights, let's celebrate them and cherish them, because more often than not, we don't get them. But you know.
Good point. Good point there. Can't debate that one. Yeah. But yeah, once again, guys, great points as always being raised here on the show. Love it. It's all about getting your insights and perspectives as always. All right, moving on, guys. Let's move on to the next topic, number 3, round number 3, that is. So WC lightweight titleist Gervonta Tank Davis will be fighting Frank Martin, which will be likely to take place this summer. So, knockout panel, what are your thoughts? Is this really a credible matchup right now, in your opinion? Because we all want to see something else happen, like a Kambosos or Lomachenko. But what's your thoughts? Over to Richard first. Is this fight a credible matchup, in your opinion? Frank Martin versus Tank Davis.
Yeah, I think so. You know, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to all the millions of fans that watch the KnockOut TV show every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, I might add.
Good plug.
Yes, thank you. I'm not going to lie and say that Tank Davis is on par with a Teofimo Lopez or a Devin Haney as far as his resume goes, but I think Tank does get a bum rap. I mean, if you take a look at what he's done, he's beaten Isaac Cruz, Rolly Romero, Mario Barrios, Leo Santa Cruz, Jose Pedraza, Yuriorkis Gamboa. He has some solid wins on his resume, but it just doesn't seem like, whether it's the promoters, you know, and he has been in trouble with the law, you know, and so I don't know where he is mentally now. But, you know, Frank Martin is an undefeated fighter. He's a southpaw, which could give Gervonta Davis some issues. And Martin's coming off of beating he handed 2 consecutive opponents their first loss, Michelle Rivera and Artem Hardanuvan, which is a tough name to pronounce.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yes, not that Martin was a world beater in both of those fights, but like I said, he fought 2 undefeated fighters back-to-back, beat them both. So I think Martin, you know, brings a lot to the fight. And, you know, sometimes Tank Davis gives away the early rounds, struggles, like he did against Isaac Pitbull Cruz. And Rolly Romero had a lot of success in the early rounds, as did Leo Santa Cruz. And, you know, Tank, as we all know, demolished Ryan Garcia in what was his best performance as a pro but it seemed from the opening bell, Garcia's heart wasn't in it. But I think Frank Martin in the early rounds, if he could win some with his southpaw style, jabbing and use some movement, and he gets off to the early lead, he could build his confidence and maybe pull off the upset. But if he stands in front of Tank and decides to trade with him, Tank will probably knock him out within 8 or 9 rounds. I'd like Tank to win the fight, but I don't think it's easy like people are saying. You read a lot of these articles and stories. Oh, Frank Martin's just another bum. Tank Davis is going to knock him out in 5 or 6 one-sided rounds. You're wrong. Frank Martin is definitely a top 10 lightweight. He brings a lot to this fight. And if Tank can destroy Martin in the same fashion he destroyed Ryan Garcia, his credibility will only rise as far as I'm concerned.
Very good. Very good. And over to the Canadian champion over here, the heavyweight champion over here. What's your take on it, Jay? Is it credible Frank Martin?
I think it's an interesting matchup in that I like 2 lefties going at it. Being a lefty myself, one of the things that I've recognized in boxing is a lot of lefties have a hard time fighting other lefties.
Yeah, good point.
So it either makes for an ugly fight or a really interesting one. And now, in all honesty, I think Tank's one of those guys. Yeah, some of the outside the ring stuff has impacted his career negatively. But I've just seen recently that he's converted to Islam, and maybe that will be a positive effect on his behavior outside the ring and stuff like that, and keep him focused. Really, my sense on Tank is just that I think consistency is the biggest issue for him, and if he was consistent in all of his habits and behaviors in and outside of the ring, I think he would be a real problem for people, right? But he does just enough to leave a little doubt in people's mind that he's not going to be able to pull it off. But he knows how to punch, and he's got good timing, so it's hard to bet against him.
Absolutely. Again, great points raised there as well. Nick, what's your thoughts with Frank Martin and Davis?
You talk about credible opponents, and I think anybody in the top 10, even top 20, they're all credible. You're not going to get like we were just talking about, you're not going to get every fight that you want, but this is a great fight, and it's a very credible fight. So, you just got to be happy that you get these matchups, because you're not having Tank Davis fighting some guy you never heard of and his record's horrible. It's great. So we got to appreciate those, just like Richard said, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate when the good fights are happening. So
yeah, exactly. Well, very good. Kind of hit that one pretty good, I thought, as always. All right, boys. Our last topic of the day, last round here on the show of the day. So, Shakur Stevenson announces retirement back on January 30th of this year. And so, of course, he actually stepped down because WBO would not allow Stevenson to fight for the vacant lightweight title at that point in time. But now, apparently, Shakur Stevenson is back, is the word. And, of course, who will be fighting next is the question, which will most likely be the winner of of course, Davis-Martin matchup coming up. So, guys, what do you think about Shakur Stevenson? Made a comeback? What do you think, guys? Over to you, Richard, first.
Yeah, the fight's scheduled for sometime in July in his hometown of Newark, New Jersey. The opponent has not yet been determined. And, I'd like to see him face up-and-coming, prospects like Abdullah Mason or Keyshawn Davis or Raymond Maralta. There are rumors that he might have a rematch because in his last fight, Edwin De Los Santos gave Shakur all he could handle and then some.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think Shakur Stevenson's at this stage of his career now that everyone has gone out of their way to duck him. People are fighting Tank. And this is well documented. If people don't believe me here on the KnockOut TV show, they can do their own research. George Kambosos, Vasily Lomachenko, all wanted no part of Shakur Stevenson. They were offered good purses. They said no. I guess Shakur's style is very frustrating, and it's sad to me. Also, Emmanuel Navarrete, who's now going to fight, who was a champion at 130, is moving up to lightweight. He's fighting for a vacant belt. Emmanuel Navarrete was offered money to face Shakur, and he turned it down. So I think Shakur got frustrated and he, retired, but now he's coming back. And in a perfect world, I'd like to see him face the winner of Tank Davis, Frank Martin. And also, Frank Martin, ironically enough, is viewed as a genius businessman because he also turned down money to fight Shakur Stevenson. And how was he rewarded? He got a bigger purse for fighting Tank Davis. So it just goes to show you how wild boxing is. Let's turn down Shakur, but let's take on Tank because he'll give us, more money. But whoever Shakur fights in July, I think he'll dominate. I'm sure it'll be a credible opponent. He'll dominate. And then I guess if for whatever reason the Tank Davis Shakur Stevenson fight never comes to fruition, Shakur will probably move up to junior welterweight and then challenge either a Devin Haney or a Teofimo Lopez. And I said it last week on last week's show, and this bears repeating. Everyone calls them the four new kings: the Hagler, the Leonard, the Duran, and the this era. You have Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis at lightweight, and you have Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney at junior welterweight, and yet none of these four guys have fought each other. And I think if this continues to happen, it'll be a stain on all four of their legacies and their records, regardless of how they proceed with the rest of their careers. The best have to fight the best, and they need to fight each other.
Yeah, exactly. As we said earlier in the show. So true. So, Jay, what's your thoughts on that? Shakur Stevenson, is he back and is he the real deal? What's your thoughts? What's your takes on all that?
Good question. When I heard him announce his retirement, immediately I just thought gimmick. Immediately, that was the first thought that came to my mind. Gimmick, right? I'm not 100% sure, but I heard something to the effect that when people, if they opt out of a fight or they say that they're retiring to pass out of a fight, essentially it's almost like a mulligan. They seem to be able to unretire at their whim. I think, in all honesty, I think there should be a rule in professional boxing that if you're going to retire, that you have to be retired for at least 2 or 3 years. Like, there's a period of time before you can be considered for a Hall of Fame induction. I think there should also be a period when people decide to retire where you're forced to retire, because people are using this to get out of fights. They're using it to position and posture for paydays. All kinds of stuff's happening with people claiming to retire, and then 6 months later they're unretiring, right? Yeah. Nobody honestly thought Shakur Stevenson was retiring, I don't think. I mean, I hope to God nobody really thought that, right? But because nobody would have really thought that, you can see immediately there's some kind of an angle behind it, right? He's having a little tantrum, he's pouting, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're the best out there, even if you're not the best, you got to fight the best. And if you don't want to fight the best, get the fuck out of the sport. Period. Yeah, right, you know what I mean? There's no business for a Shakur or a Haney or any of these other guys. You know what I mean? If the guys on the lower level have to fight their way up, why do these guys get to pick and choose? It's like the Joshua Ngannou sweepstakes, right? Like, that's another cash grab for Francis. And what did he really do in boxing to earn his spot? He got ranked 500th and something in the world on a loss. I'm almost shocked the WBC didn't make him the mandatory challenger for the winner of Usyk and Fury because of that second loss. It's getting ridiculous. It's the gong show of circus sideshows that are happening. And, Shakur on the lighter level, he's part of this circus, right? Of talking about fights, not fighting, calling this guy out, not fighting. It's like, you guys should all just literally just get in the gym, have your managers manage your career, and start fighting, right? And
it's kind of close the mouth for a while, eh?
Yeah, and look at the pace these guys are on. Like, in all honesty, I've been a busier fighter than any one of you guys, any of the fighters you guys have mentioned in the last 3 or 4 years. None of those guys have fought 11 times since 2009. You know what I mean? Or it's 2019. So like, the reality is like you guys said it. There's lots of people doing things in boxing, right, that don't seem to get as much attention. There's people that are out there dedicated to the craft. They're not out there standing on a soapbox, running their mouth, getting 10-second short bites or whatever the case may be. But they're just as deserving of opportunities, and hopefully those people start to get opportunities in the sport of boxing.
Exactly. Yeah, building your point too. I mean, Shakur Stevens is only 26 years old, so I mean, really, really crazy for him to make that comment about retiring when he did back January. But anyway, he did, and apparently he's back, so we shall see. Nick, what's your thoughts? Shakur Stevenson, is he back and is he real? What's your thoughts?
Jay said it. He hit the nail on the coffin there. It's like, this is gonna sound. I sound very bitter, which I kind of am. I used to growing up. I used to boxing scene, this and that. All these websites used to follow them religiously, check every day. I'll be honest with you. I don't care. I don't look at it. The only time I talk about boxing is when I hear a fight's happening that weekend. Okay, then I don't even listen to all that. Like I saw when I heard he retired, I'm like, yeah, cool. I laughed, right? So it's just I don't. It's just like my own fights. Until I step in the ring, I'm not excited. I'm excited when I make that walk down, and then I get excited, right? It's the same thing with any of these fights. I don't listen to any of the talk. I don't care about any of the talk. That's it. So
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Just show me, right? Gotta show me. Don't tell me. Show me.
That's it.
Right?
And you know what, guys, to his credit, let's not forget that Shakur Stevenson, we all know that Devin Haney is supposedly going to fight Ryan Garcia April 20th in New York. So the three of you come to New York. You'll be my VIP guest.
That's a good invite for you.
We'll party all night long. But
I got to fight the next day. I can't.
And I'm working on my entry into the United States.
To make a long
Sorry, Richard, we're so close on that one. But anyway,
there were still people who think that Garcia is going to pull out at the last second due to mental health issues. The fact that he's not 100% committed to fighting Devin Haney, and of course, Shakur Stevenson's team called up Devin Haney's team, which would be his father, Bill Haney, because he calls the shots, and said, "We'll gladly step in for Ryan Garcia. Make Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, April 20th in New York." And what did Bill Haney say? Shakur brings us nothing. I mean, you can't make this crap up. But like we said earlier in the show, we all want to see Benavidez against Canelo. We're getting Usyk Fury. We're getting Beterbiev Bivol. 2 fights that you could add to that list, which would top, which would be like a top 5 list. I would love to see Shakur Stevenson against Gervonta Davis to once and for all determine the best lightweight in the world. And I would love to see Devin Haney against Teofimo Lopez to once and for all decide who the best junior welterweight is in the world.
Right on. Okay, before you guys gotta go, I'm gonna get a quick take on that. Actually, it's a good point about Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. Over to ask Jay and Nick, what's your thoughts? Predictions. This really kind of quick one of Ryan Garcia and Haney. If this happens, what's your thoughts? What's your predictions going to take place here?
Oh, can all go, I guess. Honestly, that's I don't know. I would say Haney wins, but you never know.
Would you say would you say decision?
Decision, definitely decision. I don't think he'll stop him. I think Garcia will start off, fast and quick, and then he'll kind of slow down.
Yeah,
and Haney will just kind of take over because I think he's just mentally better. But what do I know?
No, I hear you. Actually, I agree. I think Haney will be the slow starter.
Yeah,
and I think Garcia will have to kind of take advantage of that in the opening rounds. But I think mid to late rounds, if it goes out far, which I think it will, mm-hmm. I think Ryan Garcia's in a lot of trouble. But that's my opinion. Yeah. Jay, just quickly, what's your takes? Prediction on Haney versus Garcia coming up.
I think it's a Haney decision. In all honesty, I think Ryan is not so mentally disturbed as people think. I think if you really understand the truth behind Hollywood and all that kind of stuff, more than anything, I think he was just that kid that got invited to Bohemian Grove and realized what was really going on out there and didn't want no part of it. And now everybody thinks he's crazy because he's actually talking about the real creepy stuff that actually goes on in those kind of places, right? But
right.
At the end of the day, it's boxing. Anything can happen. Technique-wise and skill-wise, I would honestly say Haney should be able to do this pretty comfortably, right? They're both risk-averse kind of guys, but I think Haney's technique's a little bit cleaner.
I think so too. I think he's a sharper boxer too, in my opinion as well. Agreed. And Richard, really quickly over to you before we call it a day.
Yeah, I think Roy Garcia has his moments early, especially to the body. If he lands that pointed left hook, Devin Haney does have some chin issues throughout his career. He's been hurt on numerous occasions. But I think Devin Haney is going to go out there to make a statement to tell the world that, I'm better than Teofimo, I'm better than Tank, I'm better than Shakur. Call me crazy. I think Devin Haney gets a rare stoppage win. I think after about 7 or 8 rounds, Garcia's heart won't be in it anymore. And like Tank Davis, he'll just wilt and throw in the towel. I like Devin Haney by a rare 9th round TKO.
Okay, interesting. Good call as usual. All right, boys, we're out of time already. We're out of time. So I want to thank Nick Fantauzzi for coming on the show. And, of course, Jaye, Byard, our current Canadian heavyweight champion with CPBC. Thank you for joining us as well. And, of course, my usual over here, the Richard Solomon, the boxing prophet as well. He joined on the show. So thanks as always. And thank you, folks, for watching and joining us here on the show as well. Well, thanks, guys. And, of course, Zingo TV. Check it out for all the news. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. And, hey, man, love it. Thanks, guys. We'll see you real soon. All the best, eh?
Thank you, Noel.